Welcome back to Sunday AM. Now, between social media, internet banking and a million other applications, more and more of our personal information is now online. So what can happen if it's compromised? And more importantly, what can we do to stop this happening in the first place?
To mark World Data Protection Day, we've asked John Kennedy, editor of Silicon Republic, to explain. John, you're very welcome along this morning. You're going to tell us why data privacy matters and the different kind of threats that are out there. So in my head, there's the hackers out there, and then there's also sort of low-level criminals who are just scanning social media to see if you're on your holidays and burgle your house, maybe. Is that fair?
It's fair. I've one very simple rule at home on this. If it's free, you're the product. So everything you use, Facebook, WhatsApp, you exist really for these companies to make money out of advertising based on your existence. So you're the product in that sense. Often what comes with this freedom or this privilege you think you have is actually lots of rules and regulations about what settings you press on your phone, all that kind of stuff. And most people, I think, are lambs to the slaughter because most of us are using these devices if we think it's great, but we don't actually know all the rules. And, you know, for example, on Facebook, most people don't really go into their settings to say how many people can see what they're posting up. Is it only going to be a certain group of friends? Is it the whole world? So most of us are lambs to the slaughter on this one. You
do read on occasion stories, horror stories, about people realising that their personal photographs that they had put up on social media were used, you know, in the best sort of the getting away with it sense in, I suppose, advertising different products across the world that they never thought they'd see them, they thought they'd get away with it. So that's hacking at its best.
Well, it's interesting because the hackers who are very civilised people in terms of what they can do with technology, but then you also have what happens on a day-to-day basis, reading papers from everything from revenge porn to you name it. Most of it is beyond your control, and often it's sometimes what other people do with your data too. So most people are only waking up after 20 years of carrying mobile devices, the fact that your privacy, you know, everything about you, you know, what you put out there, what other people put out there about you, you know, some of it's within your control and what you do with your settings on your phones, but most of the time you are powerless.
Do you think this world, in this day and age of oversharing, that privacy doesn't matter as much, and it should matter?
Well, I'll give you a good example. You could be sitting on a beach somewhere, Tenerife, and having a great old time. You've got a pina colada in front of you or something, you're having a great old time. You put it on Facebook, and in your town or village or community, someone spots it and says, "Oh, their house is free. Great, I'll burgle their house." You know, these are very simple things, but they do happen, and they happen every day.
So just in terms of the actual social media side of things, check your settings, make sure it's private. Only the people you are friends with or associate with know what you're doing. Let's move on then to the big bad world of hackers and people who are looking to get into your banking accounts and use that personal information for really nefarious ends. And talk us through how you can protect yourself against that.
Very, very simple rule of thumb. One of the biggest forms of hacking and attacks is phishing. That's phishing with a PH. So what happens there is you might receive an email or a text message that's socially engineered to basically get you to trust it. So you might get a message that looks like it's from your bank, and it looks in every way like it's from your bank. You click on it, it'll ask you a few bits of information. You go to a website, it looks like it's the bank's information. And what happens is that's someone who's very cleverly replicated the bank's website. And I would say to anyone, if you receive any message from your bank or anyone or any business that thinks it has your data, your bank will never ask you for information it should already have. It'll never ask you to put in your passwords or say how much, you know, put in your address. It should have already have this information.
Treat everything with skepticism on that front. Basic passwords, I mean, is that the number one protection that you have in terms of changing them, making them difficult to understand?
Passwords have been around for decades, and they're still going to be around for a while. We have all kinds of new things like fingerprint recognition, iris recognition, face recognition. That's all cool stuff. But the reality is it still comes back to passcodes and passwords, and it hasn't been replaced. My advice to people really is, if you have a smartphone, particularly an iPhone, for example, enable the passcode. And there's also a data protection setting inside the settings that, again, encrypts your phone. That will protect all your data. Even if someone tries to get into it, they can't, because they'll need that particular passcode, for example. Other things like, you know, just passphrases. People put in simple things like Star Wars 1, 2, 3.
Name your dog or something.
Name of their dog. I mean, a hacker can go on your Facebook page and see your picture of your cat, and you name the cat, for example, so there's going to be an element of maybe the cat's naming your password or something like that. A new trick would be passphrases. So I don't like getting up on a Sunday morning kind of thing. Could be a phrase, but I'm not saying that. Don't use that one.
We love it over here.
Yeah, I think we'd all use that.
Phrases that you'll remember as opposed to particular passwords would be a good trick.
Now, the one that gave me a bit of a fright was beware of public Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Especially when abroad, if you go into a cafe and there is Wi-Fi, you think, great, happy days, and you
Yeah, because
log on.
everybody wants, you've got only so much phone credit and you don't want to kind of use it up while you're travelling. So you'll use the free Wi-Fi in the airports, you name it.
Why is that a threat then?
Well, most of it's public and you'll simply log in. The reason why it's public is because they lower some of the actual restrictions and fences to get over. So basically you'll go in there and you'll be sending photos back to friends and, checking your bank account, for example. I would urge people never, ever check your bank accounts or online banking while you're using a PC or a laptop inside a public Wi-Fi zone. Because
so if you're sitting in a bar or restaurant somewhere and you're logging onto your bank account, that information is essentially in the air in the restaurant.
Yeah.
If somebody else is on that same network, they can tap in.
Most public Wi-Fi, they take down the password, so you can just go online. So you see a lot of pubs and restaurants do it because it increases footfall, so that's great. Sometimes they might have their own password and you discreetly ask for it. But I have friends in the hacker community who have basically messaged me. Yeah, they've messaged me on, say, a Sunday afternoon and say, I'm in a coffee shop and, someone's on a computer here and I think they're looking up something I think you'd be quite interested in. I go, you're inside their computer? Yes, I am. This has happened, and this can happen, and there's ways to happen, and most people.
Does that go for your phone as well, John?
To a degree, I mean, if you have your phone passcode enabled and encryption on it, not so easy for the hackers to do that. But PCs, most people just turn on their computer. The only security measure they take might be antivirus software, but their computer is on. They don't do things like encrypt the PC, and you see this happen with companies as well. And we have the GDPR rules and regulations coming in, where people go on the road, they might have a database on it with loads of addresses and names of customers. They leave the phone or the computer on the train, it goes missing, and suddenly there's, with the new laws coming into force in May, some companies could be hit with 4% fines, 4% of turnover, maximum fine 20 million
These
euros.
are responsibilities for businesses that have customer information, the way they have to protect them. So if somebody has a small business out there, they better familiarise themselves with these rules.
Absolutely. Well, it's basically so critical to a point where if, for example, I am a consumer and I feel that, say, a bank or a supermarket didn't protect my data that I gave to them, I'm going to have more rules or powers now to sue those companies. So you're going to see a tsunami of lawsuits happen from May onwards where consumers will feel that their data has been, mishandled. And not only that, there's reputational damage, but directors of companies, directors are going to be personally
liable.
liable.
They're going to be liable, yeah.
Absolutely.
We're absolutely out of time. Just very quickly, your antivirus software on your laptop computer, is that good enough? Is that the number one thing you should do?
Most new Windows 10 computers, for example, come with encryption built in. There's some free software you can use, and I recommend AVG and Microsoft Essentials. They're really good tools for basically protecting your computer.
John, thanks so
great
much
stuff.
for all
Some
those
very
tips.
interesting friends out there.
I want to throw my phone away. Thanks, Will, for coming in today. Still to come, folk legends The Furies tell us about still touring and recording after 40 years.
Plus, we'll look ahead to the best on the box, including the first episode of Ireland's Got Talent. Stay with us.